And we have breaking news on Dolphins Today. Miami. We thought it might be coming, and in fact, they have added some depth at the edge rusher position, making a pretty big name signing, bringing in Jason Pierre-Paul, and obviously an NFL veteran with a decorated career. And Ian Rapoport went ahead and reported it to make it official. A lot of people felt the Dolphins were hoping to add some depth to the edge rushing position on both their ends with the loss of Jaelan Phillips for the season. And obviously at a position of need, Jason Pierre-Paul was available. So they pulled the trigger and brought in JPP. Here's the official tweet from Ian Rapoport. The Dolphins are expected to sign free agent pass rusher Jason Pierre-Paul off the Saints practice squad and onto their 53-man roster. A big name edge addition after the Jaelan Phillips injury, and he's a Florida native on top of that. So big news in, and that is why you subscribe, because anytime there's breaking news as it relates to the Miami Dolphins, we've got you covered. Everything you need to know, the latest and greatest around the aqua and orange, and that includes when they make a big name signing by bringing in Jason Pierre-Paul from the Saints practice squad. So make sure you've subscribed if you haven't yet already, because we don't want you to miss a thing. Now, Dolphins had to make this move, as we've discussed, until we're blue in the face. The news with Jaelan Phillips, really, really unfortunate, especially when you consider the type of person he was and what he meant to this team, or the type of person he is. He's still with us, thank goodness, but obviously his season is done. But he meant so much to this Dolphins team, and so to bring in another big name like Jason Pierre-Paul, I think that shows the kind of commitment that this Dolphins front office has to this season. With one person going down in Jaelan Phillips, it's a next man up mentality. Now, Jason Pierre-Paul, some decent numbers in 2022. He's only played in one game so far this year in 2023, as we mentioned, on the Saints practice squad. But take a look at these numbers from 2022 in Baltimore: the 26 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and a couple of pass breakups. So he is that flexible edge player that Vic Fangio loves. We know all about Vic Fangio and the pieces he likes to use. But the career for Jason Pierre-Paul, obviously very, very decorated. That includes a Super Bowl ring, 631 tackles, 95 sacks, 127 tackles for loss, and some forced fumbles again. So, hey, I'm not saying Jason Pierre-Paul solves every single problem in the lack of depth at the edge position for the Miami Dolphins, but we felt like the Dolphins were very close to making a move. We discussed some possible names out there with Derek Barnett, who landed in Houston, and maybe Jason Pierre-Paul has a little bit left in the tank. Maybe there's a little bit of gas left in the tank, and the tread on the tires isn't too worn. I'm optimistic. But he joins a Dolphins edge depth chart that includes Bradley Chubb, and obviously Bradley Chubb's been playing at a very high level, and with Jaelan Phillips going to IR for the remainder of the season, that means Andrew Van Ginkel and now Jason Pierre-Paul will be that second edge rusher you look to make an impact. Andrew Van Ginkel has proven that he is capable earlier in the season when Jaelan Phillips was out. So my initial expectations, which could obviously change as more information becomes available, I think Van Ginkel will be who we see a little bit more than Pierre-Paul, but time will tell. Obviously, you had to add a little bit of depth to the Dolphins' edge rushing position. Now, anytime we have some big breaking news like this, we always love to get your reaction in the comments. So give me that one-word reaction to the Dolphins signing Jason Pierre-Paul. I'll tell you mine. I like the signing. I'm not surprised by the fact that the Dolphins signed an edge rusher, but I am a little bit surprised that they elected to go with Jason Pierre-Paul. But again, I'm not in the Dolphins front office. I don't have access to that information. But if I'm thinking out loud here, I'm assuming the Dolphins wanted to sign Derek Barnett. Obviously, with the waiver, he didn't clear waivers. He went to Houston. So Jason Pierre-Paul becomes the next best option. But I'm calling on Andrew Van Ginkel to return to that high level of play. And not that he lost a step or anything, but when Jaelan Phillips came back, it really was the Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb show. But I think Andrew Van Ginkel can be a productive edge rusher, and then you throw in Jason Pierre-Paul on top of that as a fourth option as well, and just about keeping those guys fresh. And let's not forget how well Christian Wilkins and Zach Sieler have played in the interior of that defensive line. We also saw Emmanuel Ogbah get into it in the Jets game. He was credited with half a sack in that game. So there are willing and able bodies at that Dolphins defensive line position, and specifically as edge rushers. Now, with the defense playing at such a high level, it'll be interesting to see if they can continue to sustain that high level of play that they've been able to the last several weeks. Now, coming up a little bit more on this big signing with the Dolphins bringing in Jason Pierre-Paul. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to a brand new sponsor. Woo, woo, new sponsor alert. And that is a Factor. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to listen up for a second here. The holiday season is upon us, as you might know, and you now might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jammed-packed, busy days during the holidays. Let me tell you about Factor. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service can help you fuel up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. It's always worth repeating that part. Delivered straight to your door. So you'll save time, you'll eat well, and you'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. So skip the stress of meal prepping over the holidays with Factor. Choose from 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences, all delivered right to your door and ready to eat in 2 minutes. And guys, listen up. Maybe you're looking for that way to impress somebody on a special occasion. Let me tell you about the Level Up Gourmet Plus options. They are prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time, so you can enjoy premium ingredients like broccoli, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus, and maybe impress somebody special in your life. So don't waste any more time. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 to get 50% off. And you know, we always put the link in the comments and the description to make it easy on you. But one more time, head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. Now, we know why Miami had to make this move, right? The unfortunate injury with Jaelan Phillips, and it was tough to see him go down, especially when he was playing at such a high level, making so many impactful plays on the field. And we wish Jaelan Phillips the best. And by bringing in a guy like Jason Pierre-Paul, it doesn't negate anything that Jaelan Phillips has done or what he means to this team. And I think the response on social media really shows you how beloved Jaelan Phillips is in this Dolphins locker room. And he can continue to be a source of inspiration for the Miami Dolphins team, just not on the field, unfortunately, with that torn Achilles. But take a look at what Jaelan Phillips tweeted earlier, and I think it really gives you an appreciation for the type of mentality this guy has, the type of person he is on and off the field. He said he's absolutely devastated, but I feel strength in knowing that this is all a part of God's plan, and that I hope that I have an incredible team and support system around me. I'll be back stronger than ever. Fins up. And that's a sincere individual right there with his heart on the sleeve after a devastating injury. And we certainly will miss Jaelan Phillips on the field, but know that he'll be a huge part of the Dolphins organization moving forward. And this is just a minor setback. And with that, then becomes the signing of Jason Pierre-Paul to add to the depth at the defensive end position. So bottom line, we knew the Dolphins were going to have to bring in some willing and able bodies at the defensive end edge rusher position, and they landed on Jason Pierre-Paul. Pretty big name, a guy with a proven track record. Let's just hope there's some gas left in the tank. I really am optimistic about it, and when you combine JPP and Bradley Chubb, throw in Andrew Van Ginkel as well as Christian Wilkins and Of course, Zach Sealer in the interior. I think this Dolphins defensive line and this pass rush can continue to build off of what they did against the Jets. 7 sacks against the Jets. In fact, 11 sacks in their last 3 games. So really impressive production there. So overall, in the comments, one more time, I need you to grade the signing of Jason Pierre-Paul. What do you give the Dolphins front office? You can be honest, A, B, C, D, or F if you absolutely hate the trade, but I don't expect to see any Fs in the comments. So Jason Pierre-Paul is a Dolphin, and that is why you subscribe, youtube.com/Dolphins News. Anytime Dolphins news breaks, we've got you covered with the latest and the greatest and what it all means for the Miami Dolphins. So, unfortunate news with Jaelan Phillips' season being over with the Achilles injury, but on comes Jason Pierre-Paul to help fill that void that is left by the injury of Jaelan Phillips. And with Jason Pierre-Paul, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel, Emmanuel Ogbah, Christian Wilkins, and Zach Sealer, and Raekwon Davis, we'll throw him in there as well. Let's hope this Dolphins defense can continue to make the opposition uncomfortable, continue to get pressure on the quarterback so that secondary that's been so good the last several games can continue to shine. That's going to do it for me. One more time, Jason Pierre-Paul is a Miami Dolphin, and we'll tell you and look forward to what it all means as we continue to get you set for Dolphins versus Commanders coming up on Sunday. We'll have our preview, and of course, we'll have our preview leading up to Sunday's game as well as a live show on Wednesday. So, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to this breaking news edition of Dolphins Today. Shout out producer Jack on the ones and twos, a late night here at Dolphins Today HQ. But glad to have you for today's episode, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.